Hey guys, Sacramento GX3 Reptiles. And today I want to talk to you guys about one of my personal favorite snakes and one of the most misunderstood snakes in the hobby. The Blood Python is a big snake in a short package. And these guys are one of my all-time favorites. They come in a ton of cool colors nowadays, and as you can see, they're not all super bitey. In fact, I wouldn't even say they're aggressive snakes. I'd say they're little shy as babies, but other than that, these guys are awesome snakes. And today we're going to teach you guys all about how to keep them, care for them, breed them, and even determine the boys and the girls when you do get the babies. Because these guys are a little tricky compared to some of the other pythons. So here we have one awesome clutch of blood pythons. We've got a ton of variation here. This is from a GoldenEye het T-positive albino to a Batik T-positive albino. So you can see we've got pixels. This is the normal pixel. We've also got a normal het albino. We've got Batiks. And we've even got a T-positive pixel in the clutch. So really, really cool clutch, a lot of variation. As you can see, blood pythons can have 20 plus babies in one clutch, no problem. This was not even from my biggest female, so really, really cool clutch to have, and we're excited to have all these blood pythons. It should be available in a few weeks once they get eating, but these guys are fresh out of the egg right now. But now what I wanted to show you guys is something that's a little bit different on the blood pythons. When you're sexing these things to determine your males and females, there's a couple things you're going to want to watch out for. Number one is getting bit. These guys are a little bit shy, like I mentioned, so they will often try to bite. So what you usually want to do is have the head facing down, and as you pick up the tail and just quickly avert the hemis if they have them, and then you can go from there. So I'm going to show you guys how this works. So that's a male there. You can see nice purple color, large hemipenes. Now let's see if we can find a female. And there's a female there. So you can see the aversion. See those scent glands coming out? But those are not hemipenes. So that is a female, but they still will avert like that. So a lot of people see that when they're new to sexing bloods, and they'll misidentify a female as a male. So very, very common. When I first got into bloods, I got some bloods from a well-known breeder, and 2 out of the 4 were misgendered. So we make sure that when we're sexing these things that we get the males and the males and the females and the females. It can be a little confusing, but once you see what you're doing and you understand how to do it, it's pretty straightforward. So here we have a T-positive albino GoldenEye. Really, really cool snake. This is one that I actually hatched here several years ago, and she actually produced a clutch for us this year. So a lot of cool babies that we're going to have available from her. You can see fairly thick snake, but not overly long. These guys usually top out around 6 feet, but a 6-foot blood python is a fairly large snake. I like to think of them as one of the large snakes, but in a more compact body. They're really kind of like having a berm with the size and the strength of the animal, but without the length. So it makes them a lot easier to handle as just one person safely versus something like a Burmese python or reticulated python when full grown. These guys are pretty heavy, and they produce large clutches like I had mentioned. And as they get bigger, they usually calm right down. I have found that the GoldenEye morph typically seems to be a lot more relaxed. And then the Batik morph seems to be a little bit more high-strung, I guess you could say. Maybe that's just my experience, but I've had quite a few. If you do get in their face, though, they will snap. So blood pythons are interesting because they are a snake that's from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, that area of the world. And these guys are actually swamp snakes. So they live in areas that it stays pretty wet all the time. They have even adapted to living in the palm oil fields for commercial farming, which is kind of an interesting adaptation that these guys have. And one thing that they've adapted to that is their scaling is a lot different than a lot of other pythons. So you won't have to worry about scale rot or anything like that if they're in really, really moist conditions. With that being said, I would keep them pretty similar to how you keep some other humid python species, with the exception of these guys drink a lot of water. So you're gonna need to always have fresh water in there. A lot of times if these guys are having bad sheds, it's not actually from humidity, it's because they are getting dehydrated. These snakes drink more water than any other snake I've ever kept, so you really gotta keep an eye on that water bowl. Make sure that these guys are nice and hydrated, because if they start getting dehydrated, that's when they're gonna start getting stuck sheds, which is something that you're gonna wanna avoid with these guys. As far as care, these guys are pretty similar to most of the other pythons. They do have slower metabolisms than some others, like the black-headed pythons and the other snakes that we keep. So these guys, as adults, even for breeder females, you're fine feeding every couple of weeks. And I never feed mine anything more than a large rat. They will get overweight quickly, and you can see good body conditioning on this girl. She laid a clutch a few months ago, but she's already back to nice body condition. Not overly thin along the spine, but you can still see a little bit of curvature and a nice round body. You don't want them looking like a stuffed sausage. That would be an overweight snake, and an overweight snake's one's probably not gonna breed for you, and it's probably gonna die prematurely. And these guys can live 15, 20 years if you're taking care of well in captivity. So really cool pets. A really cool option if you're looking at a snake, kind of a medium-sized to large-sized snake, but you don't want to go all the way to a reticulated or Burmese python, something that's going to get giant. So these guys are great in a 4x2x2 enclosure, and you can really set these guys up pretty nicely with a nice humid hide, and then they aren't super active, so they don't need a huge footprint like some of those larger snakes, but a 4x2x2 would be my recommendation for these guys. Feeding every couple weeks, pretty easy snakes to keep. They don't poop as often either. They probably only poop as an adult a couple times a year, really. But that doesn't mean that they don't go to the bathroom. They do still pee quite a bit because they do drink a lot of water, like I mentioned. So they're still gonna wanna change that substrate out regularly. And so here I've got one more variation that we didn't hatch from that clutch, but this is super cool. This is a golden-eye to golden-eye, which makes a magpie. This is your standard magpie here. And then this is the T-positive version of the magpie. Really, really cool snakes, cool patterns. So these guys will be available shortly. And these guys are already feeding on rat crawlers right out of the gate. So thank you guys for watching the video today. If you like this, like, subscribe. And if you have any videos that you'd like to see on some of the snakes that we have in our collection, let me know. Remember, it's Granite GX3 Reptiles. We're located in Sacramento, California. If you guys ever want to come by our retail shop, we're open Monday through Sunday. Stop by and see us. Thanks.